Hello, show on Tuesday. I am joined. Well, first of all, it's Tuesday. We're at that show on Tuesday. The vibes will stay the same. I'm your host.
The vibe will stay the same. We would not get excited.
Yes.
We would not talk about anything fun.
Yes. I'm your host, TK, joined by Aaron Humphreys.
Yeah, what do you want to know?
Yep.
I've heard about that guy.
That guy's a punk. Keeps showing up. Yeah, and the Pencil and Obsoletes. The comic that is, I think, shipping now. I think they're shipping them now for the last Kickstarter. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So I'm excited to see it. I've seen it, put together. I've seen it put together digitally, but it's always fun to see it in book form. So I'm excited to see it. Too bad Jose screwed it up. I
ruined it.
Yeah, I almost ruined the entire stream. My bad.
I know. We almost got banned because of you.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. And I also have Jose Fuentes.
I am the inker for said obsolete story. And as aforementioned, I ruined it.
Perfect.
He
So
probably
bye
just
anyway.
made it better.
Yes.
He's like, I took your stuff and made it better. Made everything better.
There you go. And if those of you watching are wondering who I am, I'm the writer of Wolf Hunter and also the content writer here at Silverline. And today we're not talking about writing at all. We're talking about drawing backgrounds. And we'll be covering backgrounds in panels, splash pages, covers, kind of the whole shebang. What we like, don't like, what seems to be the trends throughout that I've noticed. And
we're supposed to talk about backgrounds today?
Yes.
I came in
like
on the
you
wrong
want to know
day.
my criminal background? Like what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Expunged, Aaron. Expunged.
Yes.
Yes. If you see the SWAT showing up behind me, think nothing of it. It's just my background.
Right.
Yeah. That's what's happening in my background, right?
Yeah. And I feel like I have to level up my nerd cred. I'm wearing my pizza butt shirt today because MC Chris, famed nerdcore rapper and voice from Aqua Teen Hunger Force and C-Lab 2021, did his retirement tour since he's no longer being a musical artist. And I managed to catch his last show in Oregon. So
Nice.
Yeah.
I have no clue who that guy is, but nice.
He has several songs about the different bounty hunters in Star Wars and the different vehicles he imagines them driving. So you have Fett's Vet.
I just saw, no joke, I just saw that video.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay, so I do know who that dude is.
IG-88's 57 Chevy, Dengar's dump truck, and my favorite, Bosk on a Segway. So, yeah.
Why does that fit? I always liked Bosk. I think in the Clone Wars they did more with that alien species, but I can't remember. I think they had Bosk in there too. Or something was a cool character.
Yeah. Yes, to get a lot of them.
I always like the fact that what's her name? Mon Mothma was like many Bothans died to get us this information, and then you find out in Rogue One, Bothans are humans. I thought they were dog people.
I couldn't figure out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like the Family Guy parody where they just create one character whose name is Mini Bothans.
But strange enough, in Star Wars fits.
Yes.
Because those are such weird names that you could see somebody being named that.
Yes. But yes, so that's my nerd cred level up for the week. But this week we're talking about drawing backgrounds. So unless anyone else has anything that they feel pumped to talk about, we can get into backgrounds.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Aaron is going to tell us everything he knows about backgrounds.
Yes.
Wait a minute, is this my show because I'm the artist now? Is this what it is?
No,
it might be. but
we'll show up, but
we'll be referring to you for a bit here. But as people who work tangentially to comic artists or at least enjoy the medium, we can also give our perspective of. We can give a perspective as to the types of backgrounds that we enjoy seeing in the comics we read, or the amount of information, that I overload my artist with in panel descriptions as a writer, or if Jose has an experience with getting a background in from the penciler, saying like, no, we're not doing that. Instead, just doing a fill.
Most of my backgrounds,
that's all it is.
Yeah, I think most of my backgrounds are pretty much stuff. He's just like, well, I'll just paint this all black. Boop. There's no reason to have that.
White halo over the characters. We're good.
Yeah. You know, it's funny when I draw comics. I think I always, and maybe this isn't completely right, but I always think of like a camera. It's like you know, you're filming. So I'm always shifting the camera to get different angles or whatever, and I always try to keep my backgrounds in relevance to other. Okay, so if like there's a tree here and I switch the camera, I try to reference the original tree I drew, so it makes it look like it's the same tree and not different things. Like I actually will reference my old backgrounds to redraw the backgrounds from different angles, just to keep a sense of like it's still in the same place, especially if the scenes happen in multiple places. I mean, most artists hate drawing backgrounds. I at first didn't, and now over the years I love it. I actually maybe have more fun drawing backgrounds. I know Roland says like you have a lot of backgrounds, and but you know that's just because Roland has no taste. And but I don't know. I've noticed when it comes to characters, I sometimes have to pay more attention. But when you draw backgrounds, a lot of times you could just doodle. There's much more relaxing. This is what I found. Just especially when you draw foliage or something. Mechanical stuff you have to stay a little more attention to, but foliage and stuff is great because you just doodle whatever and just get the idea in. And you don't have to be so, especially if it's organic, you don't have to be so structured with your pencil line. You can just kind of wiggle because it's supposed to be organic. I remember the person who really like got me going in that was Mark Silverstreet in the old X-Men stuff. He used to, because his backgrounds are so loose, but were so informational. There was so much information in them. I don't know. I really like that. As far as favorite, I mean, backgrounds, Mark Schultz, who did Xenozoic sagas, does just unbelievable backgrounds. John Byrne is no slouch, especially the guy when he does the perspective grid. I think him and Arthur Adams both do perspective grids. Yeah, he just goes nuts.
Adams that guy is crazy when it comes to doing backgrounds.
Did you see that?
Doing his perspective grid.
Yeah. Did you see that new X-Men cover he did? The Cocoa Island and all that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that thing was nuts. I mean, it was. I mean, he's been around so long, and he comes out and it's like, yeah, he still got it in spades. You know, yeah, that guy. The other one I think he does good backgrounds is Frank Cho. I always thought he did a good job with those.
That guy puts so much effort and like not effort, but I guess so much detail. Like I have his one of his books, his Ballpoint Beauties, and it's basically the same 3 pages throughout the whole book, only it's different drawings and the same steps. Like he's basically beating it into you. You draw your hatches, then you draw your cross hatches, and then you go a different way to add filler to add depth and whatnot. Like
it's definitely, I've watched them and it's definitely very step based. I mean, it's not, it just go through the steps. I'm thinking of the other background. Bernie Wrightson always did amazing backgrounds. I mean, of course, the infamous background from the Frankenstein book is just unbelievable.
Well, Bernie Wrightson's not human.
Yeah, he Because I mean, I still look at that background in the Frankenstein lab, and I'm like, I wonder.
Explain.
Like Barbara knows him. I wonder if she knows how long that took him to do that. I'd be curious if she has that information or he ever said that. Because I still look at that and I'm just like, kind of cry a little bit. I'm like,
right? Like every vial, every flask, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I actually had that on my screensaver on my computer once. I just sit there and look at it, try to find all the things.
I can't do that. That would just make me cry. Like,
I know. Make you give up, throw the towel in.
I'm like, was his page like this big?
Yeah. The other one who does amazing backgrounds is Jeff Darrow. That guy, but
Yes.
he just goes unbelievable. I mean, he'll draw like the little Coke can in the background, way in the background. He draws the Coke logo on it and stuff. I'm just like, yeah, he's on another level. Yeah, there's definitely people, and I've noticed over the years, I've actually started to respect a lot more artists, the backgrounds and figures. 'Cause I think when you start out drawing, you respect more the figures and the action. As you go further in the art, you start respecting more of the background, especially the composition of the figure in the background and how it flows. Yeah, Milo Manera is another one that does amazing backgrounds. He did De Borges, and he did one of like the cathedrals or something over in Europe, and with like a crowd scene, just unbelievable. I was just like, and it was a panel, like, and this is a panel in the book, not just an illustration, it's a panel. Wow. Yeah, Milo Manera is another one. But then all those European artists just make me jealous, just astound me. So many of them do.
I think I'm a fan of Euro comics. I'm hopefully that's not why AJ quit Wolf Hunter. But the fact that I like that. I like that some of those like those European facades are like where they're like, yeah, we need reference to architecture because we have a lot of historic architectures. That's important to like culturally. So I'm like, well, historically, there's a lot of architecture reference, so we need to like reference that. I'm like, by the way,
I would actually, strangely enough, most of my stuff is made up, sci-fi or fantasy. But I would love to take a stab at least one comic that has referencing, because I do like drawing off reference and stuff. I mean, when I draw animals and stuff, I will. Now I print like cheat sheets, especially if I'm drawing by hand. Like I'll just put a bunch of images I like onto one piece of paper, print it, and I just have these sheets of multiple images, and do it like that.
Well, I mean, in regards to reference, I don't see a problem with that. I have like an entire library of reference on my computer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
it's always. Go ahead, Tim.
Say, oddly enough, I feel like if you're getting a background with a ton of detail, I feel like it would be easier to get something that exists in real life, as opposed to being thrown like, I need full detail of the interior of the spaceship.
Yeah. That would be. I mean, now I'm trying to think like if anyone ever attempted to draw the cockpit of the space shuttle or something,
right?
Like in detail.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be something where like as the writer, you have to lay out. If you're going to be nice to your artist, you need to lay out how you imagine that they would flow in your mind, so then your artist can at least like get a starting point, as opposed to like forcing them to also conceptualize.
Well, I know.
Like anybody that wants to draw for Tim. Know that you're going to pull your hair out.
I try to be nice. If I ask for a lot, I will include either if it's something in real life, I'll include Pinterest links, or if it's something that's fictional, I will paint the word picture in like there's like a few key details. Whatever else, just include or don't include at your whim.
Right.
I just keep thinking of Peter breaking out in the cold sweats when he hit the fire engine. When he had to draw those fire engines and stuff.
Yeah.
That was a running joke forever. And Peter's really good at drawing backgrounds. Irritates me a little bit, to tell you the truth. Yeah.
Should.
Yeah. And so if Peter's listening, he can puff out his chest, but only a little bit.
Right.
Because I have to put in like, his background's okay, but the rest of it sucks. I can't give him all the credit. No.
Well, you saw one of it. He had posted a video on Instagram of Luna sitting on his lap. Well, anyway, with like this, I think he put his pen in her hand. I was like, yeah, we know who does the real work around there.
Oh yeah. That's that kid. It's that baby.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of on our team who. Dean does really good backgrounds. Rob does too.
Dean does cool backgrounds.
Yeah. I like the backgrounds, but I don't know the artist for Divinity. I know Barbara writes, but she said the artist a few times. I forget the gentleman's name right now. Do you guys have any favorite like background artists or go to? I mean, even you, Tim, just being a writer, but have like certain artists where you're like, dude, that guy. Just those sort of artists where you can get lost in their backgrounds in the worlds.
Let me hear. Actually, thinking one. I'm trying to find there's a certain era of X-Men that I can't remember who did the art. I'll have to look that up, but that got me. But also, let's see who did some of the backgrounds. It was Sean Gordon Murphy and Matt Hollingsworth. Some of the stuff they did for Tokyo Ghost is absolutely insane.
Yeah,
right.
Murphy, Sean Gordon Murphy. He did. I was in Tokyo Ghost was good. You know, it's funny. The story didn't. That was one story I started out strong. I didn't think ended the way I didn't think the story's bad. It didn't end the way I wanted to end, but I still think it was good. My favorite one of his was Punk Rock Jesus. That's why I was introduced to Sean Gordon Murphy.
Chrononauts.
Yeah, he did Chrononauts. I totally forgot.
He did Chrononauts. In a lot of detail into that one.
I can't remember the gentleman who does the book called Low, but that guy does really amazing work too. I don't think it's Sean Gordon Murphy.
Greg Tocini?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know his name. I just know I really like that.
Yes.
Book.
I know Marco Santucci does a lot of detail, like in the Swamp Thing stuff that he was working on. He put a lot of detail in there.
Yeah. It's funny. Strange enough, the other people who did really cool backgrounds, but they were different, was Peter Eastman. Eastman and Laird, the guys doing the Turtles. They would do. They were more sketchy, but I remember he really did a lot of detail.
I was gonna say I didn't feel they were like very detailed, like per se.
No. But they really kind of fit the style of the Turtles. They give them the one thing I really liked about their backgrounds is they really were able to nail that sense of like grime or like street level that the Turtles inhabited. And I think it was because of his line work, that sort of sketchy line work that I think he really nailed it. I reference a lot of the Turtles for cities and stuff to get viewpoints and stuff. Always thought they're really well done.
Definitely.
So. Do you have any favorite background artists, Jose? Or are you just going to keep on inking?
Did you not hear me? Like I agreed with some of the ones that you said.
You were talking about something or another?
Like off the top of my head, I mean, other than you guys mentioned Sean Gordon Murphy, and like I can definitely mention books that he's done. I love Arthur Adams. That guy makes me sick. He's the sweetest, nicest guy in the whole wide world.
He is. I've met him. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah. I don't have to deconstruct his work to try and understand it because he literally posts his step-by-steps. So it makes it a little easier, but it's just astounding. It's a little staggering, honestly, to just envision the amount of work he puts in on 11 by 17 page. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, yeah. There's a reason he's a slower artist, but it's worth it when you get in the end. I mean, I still look at a lot of. It's interesting to look back at his long shot series, so which one is first one, see how much he's grown. Arthur Adams was. Man. I mean, I like Jim Lee, but as far as my all-time favorite X-Men artist, it's just gonna have to be Arthur Adams. I had posters of him in my room. He always drew the best Wolverine. I love you, Jim Lee, but Arthur Adams just was able to nail that sort of stock Wolverine. He was like the stocky, bouncy guy. Yeah. I don't know. That's something that had a poster.
I like was it Bill Sienkiewicz's stuff too. I know it sounds funny, but he doesn't really have a whole heap of detailed backgrounds, but it's always because backgrounds aren't always meant to just give you details of settings and whatnot. It's supposed to help the angles and everything to help focus the attention where it needs to focus on, right? And I feel that that's his art style does that. That instead of focusing on detail of buildings and stuff like that, architectural detail and stuff like that, he focuses more on focusing the eye, training the eyes to go where he wants it to go.
Yeah. The other artist I was looking at him for Obsoletes was Matsumi Shiro, who did Ghost in the Shell and Appleseed. He, especially in Appleseed, would do this huge futuristic. I mean, it was funny because most American artists do a 2-page spread of a big fight or hero action scene. He would do a big 2-page spread of just Olympus City. And it was just incredible. And so, I mean, I would look at all the reference. I mean, I'm just wow, that's cool.
Oh, you know who else does another one? Is it David Peterson? The dude who does Mouse Guard.
Oh, yeah.
That guy puts a lot of detail in his work.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like. It's funny again, like George Perez and stuff. It's funny. I love backgrounds that add style. Like I was just thinking of Sin City when Frank Miller did that. That you were talking about. It doesn't have to be detailed. Sometimes the stylization of the backgrounds, like Tim,
Yeah.
the Batman animated cartoon.
Yes.
The backgrounds are so didn't have to be detailed, but they added so much like flavor or
And were drawn by Mackenzie Workman.
yeah. The dinosaur.
Everyone's favorite.
Yes.
It's the dinosaur.
I mean, I would chastise you because you weren't on and you haven't been on and whatnot, but I wasn't either. So.
Dude, like I can't tell you how crazy. Like everyone's life is crazy, but like how crazy the last few weeks have been. Like it has been insane.
I believe it. I've had the opposite problem where that I've moved up into an even cushier corporate marketing position. So
lazy.
I've actually had time to work on the history edition for Wolf Hunter because my day job is like.
I wish. And like, did you guys see that thing that happened with my trailer?
Yes.
Yeah. Like within, I have never blown a tire out, and then within 4 days blew out 2.
Mm-hmm.
The same tire, right? Wasn't it the same tire?
The same tire, and I was like, at both times, I was 2.5 hours away. I was like, "Are we joking?" The second time, though, I had 6 dinosaurs in the trailer, so that was a bit more.
Does AAA cover dinosaurs?
Oh, I wish.
So what did what did the people say when they come out and see
you? I need a ride.
Yes.
That most people just are like, "What you hauling?" And I'm like, dinosaurs. I only got pulled over one time, and they were like, "Yeah, open it up," and I was like, "Okay."
Yes.
It's just like I said, I was. I'm like, I'm not involved. I swear I'm not on drugs.
Perfect. Yes. Today we're talking about drawing backgrounds, and we're just going over some of our favorite background artists or what good backgrounds can add to a scene besides just world details.
Yeah.
Aaron's talking about this. The kind of almost the Batman anime series. It wasn't really necessarily adding details, which was just stylization or adding to the emotion of the scene.
Yeah, like sometimes it sets the tone.
Yeah, and I actually just realized one of my recent series is a Comixology original called Clear, and the artist is Francis Manipul, and the backgrounds are all super stylized. It's half real world, but usually just in a different style of background noise, but usually just in a different style of colorization or scheme. So it's all like uncanny valley, and it really sets the mood really well.
I believe he worked on some Justice League.
Yeah.
Right? Pretty sure. Oh yeah, it was during the Year of the Villain.
Yes.
He did stuff for Year of the Villain.
Yeah, he also did a little bit on Death Metal, which is I have the collection, which I need to go through and read through.
I am not surprised by that, by the way.
Yes.
I also have a collection. It happens to be Pete's.
Nice. All right. Mackenzie, do you have any when you're thinking about backgrounds in comics or animation, or is there any for favorite series or artists that you've had backgrounds that stuck with you, or things that have made you think about the background?
The first time I ever, and this sounds really dumb, and it made me really realize how important backgrounds actually are, is when I took a class in college, and we were talking about start talking about backgrounds, and I was like, yeah, it's like a background is a background, and it was kind of after we talked about like dimensions of characters, and I'm like, oh yeah, I never realized like a character needed a favorite color because that's something people have, and that makes the character more realistic. And then when we got into backgrounds, I remember they were like, go out and watch a movie and take note of the background. Yeah. And I remember that's the first time I realized Lilo and Stitch, like they had used old school watercolors in the background. Yeah. And it was like the first time in forever that they had done that, and they haven't done it again. Yeah. Nice. And it's just so, like, that was so beautiful, and I was like, yeah, that really did shape the tone. And that kind of set me on the path of realizing about these backgrounds. But I remember, like, for whatever reason, that was the movie that, like, I was like, oh my God, I never noticed backgrounds before. Right.
Yeah, that was, now I'm trying to think of any movies. Well, the one movie that I was just fascinated by the background to be the original Tron. To this day, because they were so simple but just so effective. That was I think Mobius was one of the ones.
Yes, so that's the goal, just trying to wild man out. Roller ship saying my hair is wild.
Or you weren't gonna say anything, but I remember at the end of Tron they had this where they finally freed the world from master control, and they went through the world, was showing like how this light, like the red light turned to blue, like the world's coming back. Some of those escapes, like dreamscapes and cities, are just still iconic in my head. And again, so much of background has to do with world building, and stuff. I almost think, especially fantasy and sci-fi. I mean, if you're an artist, you should definitely pay attention to background some, or try to do something unique, because world building can make a bajillion times different, especially fantasy.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's I know there's some particular people in comics that say, outside of establishing shots, no backgrounds.
I don't do that. I ask Jose. He kind of, it's like the guy does them nonstop.
I can see that in
this guy.
I can see the benefit, like in a no background shot, for like if you're dramatic effect, like on a punch in a character's face. But if especially if you are dealing with fantasy or science fiction, when I read something that is completely lacking in backgrounds, it feels like there's a lack of personality almost. It makes the comic feel very dry.
Yeah.
Well,
unless you're trying to go with something that's stylized, kind of like anime. That has that, like, when like the action scenes in anime where it like completely like you get your, like, unless you're going for that sort of vibe, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You don't in anime and manga, you don't need backgrounds, you just need zap lines everywhere.
Yeah. It's funny too, because when a lot of, especially manga, I don't know, anime do backgrounds, they do really amazing ones, but then I think a lot of them actually will trace over photos, basically trace over them. But it's weird because their idea is like the characters are stylized and the backgrounds are realistic. Which is cool, but sometimes the one thing I would love is I will give Western art this a little bit, because I see it in manga, but not as much. Yeah. I think we do a little more stylization of worlds. Different types of styles and stuff. European, the Japanese sometimes can be very stringent on like cartoon stuff, realistic backgrounds, that same kind of style over and over again. I think sometimes, and not all of them. I mean, I think that they do a lot of stylizations of characters and stuff, but sometimes I'll see completely different stylizations of characters, but the backgrounds are always super realistic. Like they got to have every nut and bolt in the car, sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah,
as like Formula D was like a lot, but
yeah.
I was kind of thinking almost back to Mackenzie's point earlier with the anime fight scenes, but I think Bleach in particular, a lot of shonen did. The Bleach in particular, I realized how they had just, especially in the Spirit Realm, but they'd have some of the most detailed settings where characters would be meeting, but then when someone would use their Bankai or go like full power mode, it would cut to them without a background, and then as the dust settled, you'd see them in the background again. As that moment of that cutout where like is really good at drawing focus and then is like anchoring you, drawing focus, and then anchoring you back in it. So I think that's an interesting use of using kind of like a no background scene.
Yeah. And I think, you don't always have to have backgrounds. I mean, I do think there's been some really impressive stuff where they take away background to focus on the character. I've done that in my comic.
Yeah.
Taking away the background. It's funny. I remember reading comics, as a kid and focusing on the characters. And I think the switch to backgrounds actually started coming a little bit when I started playing video games, because especially 3D video games, you're about exploring a world. Like like I played Horizon Zero Dawn, and Aloy is a cool character, but without that world, man, there's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is that background world building that makes that game. And then there's a lot of video games, I think, that do that.
But I think a lot of times it can harm it also, especially once you start getting older and realizing it. Because like there's a couple of video games and like even movies. I can't think of any comics that come to mind where they were like, especially when they were doing that transition from 2D to 3D, where like the up close characters were 2D and the background were 3D, and you're like, this just isn't like computing.
It does not age well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. And it really did harm a lot of things that I think could have been classic or like,
Final Fantasies were classic ones for that.
Yeah, that's why I'm very glad the Final Fantasy VII remake is good.
They blend. Yeah, it's funny because she's right. You see those like those Final Fantasies original ones, you're like those backgrounds really like, oh, those are painted. Like they're just pictures and the guys and they're just having the characters run around in perspective.
The old school parallax backgrounds. I do. I'm like, nice thing with comics is they kind of, because it is inherently a drawn medium and drawing.
Yeah.
You end up getting new techniques and new technology to assist it, and I definitely think that there's been a skill level up in general or attention to detail up in the last like 20 years, especially. Like, the amount of abs that have been added to characters in the last 20 years. There's because people have been able to draw in more minute detail. I'm like, well, what are you gonna do? Just give them more abs. But
you have the same amount of abs, just add feathering.
Yeah.
But
I always think it's funny when go ahead, Tim. I'll
okay. I was gonna say, but there are some older comics where because it's just the nature of something being drawn. It's very easy to go back and reread that without it feeling like it's aged out. Like I plan on rereading Daredevil Born Again before the show comes out, because it's a good comic. It's a great comic, and also the art just really sticks with that. But there are some things from, I hate the poke at our namesake, but from the Silver Age and like early Bronze Age, where if I go back and look at it, I'm like, I cannot with this art style right now.
No. Absolutely not.
It's like this smells of late 70s. There is patchouli and shag carpeting in this comic.
There used to be this like online comic. I can't remember what it was that I loved when I was younger. I know it had, and it sounds really weird, but the characters were all lions. And I loved it when I was younger. And the person that did it like old school inked it and then like put it to a copier and put it online, and I loved it. And at a certain point they started to only old school ink the main character, once again going back to that transition, and then you could tell it was starting to do digital in the background, and it just like ruined the vibe. I don't know, it like took you out of it. And I'm like, there's something about like, I hate when things change. I hate the transition of things, and I'm like,
well, I'm sure if they did it either like all together, if they did it gradual, it'd be something. But when you do a transition like that and it's so jarring, or even that's another issue you might run into with some backgrounds, is if it clashes with either stylistically or thematically with your foreground, you end up getting a really jarring background foreground relation. And if you're not doing that intentionally, it can make your comic unreadable, because just subconsciously the person's eyes are like, I don't want to focus on this.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, like for this one, like the for whatever reason, and I think it was because it was so new, like the color of the characters, again, they were lions and they were different characters, or different colors, I mean, like they couldn't get the colors right once they transitioned to digital from what they were doing. Like it was just like, you're like, that's not the right color of that person, and it just like takes you out of the story and then makes you not want to read it. It's like like in Rogue One when they had Darth Vader's chain wrong, and I'm like, I can't watch this. I'll take notice to it.
You mean the chain holding his cape?
Yeah.
Wow. No, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. I'm just sad that we didn't get the.
Yeah, but you do have a slight fixation on Darth Vader.
That's fair.
I'm not saying that's unhealthy, Mackenzie.
I do not. I have a cape. No. Oh, it's very, very
healthy
normal.
Fixation.
Yeah,
it's
really
a normal.
It's a hobby.
It's like all this Darth Vader posters behind you.
I know, right?
I'm just like, it's fine.
It's fine. He's fine.
Jose, it seemed like we might have had some thoughts in that last bit that we talked over you with. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Oh, I don't even remember now. I got distracted by the millions of posters and above.
That's fair.
No.
They're all Darth Vader. Don't worry, you didn't miss much.
Yes. The one thing I am sad we didn't get.
I think actually Aaron hit on it. I think Aaron hit on what I was going to say just about the backgrounds and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I was going to say, well, they may have got his chain wrong in Rogue One. I am sad that we didn't get the director's original idea, as I believe the writer, I forgot his name. I follow him like everything. Gary Whitta.
Yeah.
He had written, I believe it's supposed to be like the last like 10, 15 minutes. It's supposed to be extended, just like almost like a horror movie of the rogues trying to run down the rebels trying to run to the front of their Corellian cruiser as Vader's just like going full on Predator.
I know.
Yeah.
I want all of it. I want like R-rated like Darth Vader just like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get that. We get them the books, but I wish we get that on screen sometime soon. Yeah,
we got it like 2 seconds in like Obi-Wan, like just a tease of it, and I'm give it to me.
Yeah, his fight with the third sister was so good.
Wait, are you saying that you rooted for Darth Vader when he fought Obi-Wan in Obi-Wan?
Yes.
Huh.
And she's cut from the stream.
Yeah.
I know, right? And she's out.
Okay. Did you expect anything else from me? I mean, come on.
I really didn't. I really didn't.
But we did get some. Speaking of background details, the hiding the two ships behind each other. Fun idea on the director's part, but I liked using some background details to build some story, build some more world, and getting the shades of Force Unleashed level powers again with Vader stripping the ship out of the sky.
Yeah,
totally here for it.
Okay, well, we have about. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask. I know we're talking about different backgrounds and different styles of backgrounds and emotions and backgrounds and whatnot. Do you prefer when you write, and that's like for you or Mackenzie, how you kind of sort of said it, but how detailed do you write your backgrounds in regards to, you know what I mean, to when you're writing?
Right. Usually I'll include because I don't want to be the guy that gives the artist like 50,000 projects per panel. I try to only include background details if they are important to the world, the emotion, or if they're like a plot tool that'll come back later. So that's kind of like if something's being placed in there to be Chekhov's gun, I'm placing this in like the background in issue 1 to be used in issue 3. I'm going to like write that in, but usually I just describe what the characters are doing and their general setting.
Gotcha.
As long as it's not too involved. If it's like in Soul Ascendant, we are inside a spaceship for a like pseudo-futuristic Roman Republic. So obviously there's no real reference for this, so I'll kind of include like some Pinterest links to visual references. I'm like, it might look like this, or to give them a layout. Like, I'd imagine like ship wise, the view screen would be here. You probably have chairs in this section, but it won't describe like the exact or what style of chair I want to be. Just like the flow of the room that would make the most sense for the story.
Right.
I would say I'm pretty much the same. I mean, I unless it's very important to the story, I try not to give too many details and be like, this is neat, how's it need set up. Usually I'll do like a quick like vibe, like I'll be like, oh, this is like a Star Wars cantina vibe, or this is like how they're moving through this should be like Indiana Jones style, like that sort of thing. And if
not like
there's
you'd be expecting Quentin to show up out of the blue and be like, that's a lie.
That's a lie. No, like I'll listen, he might.
Yeah.
But like I'll try to give the artist, I don't want to do the artist job. But I want to make sure my story comes across. So I feel like as long as I set it up and I feel like the artist knows. If some artists I've worked, not with comics, like because I've worked with Quentin, he's great, but like other things that I've worked on, I've been having to baby people and be like, no, this is how we need to do it, and like is step by step. But most of all for comics, I'm just like, hey, here's the vibe, here's like a setup. Hey, this is in the background because this is gonna come back later. Yeah. But if it's not, like, I trust my artist. I'm not gonna tell my artist how to do their job as long as I'll have as much as I need in the story.
That's I'll beforehand, when I work with someone new, I'll also usually do like the check and be like, hey, how much detail do you like in your panel descriptions?
Yeah.
Because if there's just tell me like what the characters are doing, I'll fill in the rest from there. Like, great, perfect. That's what I'll do. But if someone's like, no, I want to be like brain off, pencil to page, like you give whatever you give me gets on the panel. And if anything beyond that does not get on the panel, I'm like, all right, great, I'll give you everything.
I will
less, nothing more.
Yeah.
I will say though, I'm a bit more of a stickler when it comes like to film. Because, like, if we're, like, building a film room and I've written the story or whatnot and we're sitting down with the designer, I'm a stickler then. And I'm like, no, the clock went on there and the toy was in that. But, like, I feel like for comics, like, it's so many different panels. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also with comics, you get a little more, like, you can be a little more forgiving with it because, like, you don't always need to, with, like, a film set, you're kind of limited in the number of shots you can frame without, exposing the set or using budget. Because like if someone builds something and it's incorrectly, well, you just wasted, a couple $1,000. Whereas if something's the wrong place, like, all right, I'm just going to erase that, copy paste.
Yeah. It'd be easier to fix stuff.
Royal Airships asks, should it account for readers' imaginations to fill in the gaps, keep backgrounds vague? We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, and there are some uses in vague backgrounds, but if you're reading through a comic that doesn't have a decent number of strong backgrounds, it feels kind of dry or lack of personality, unless it is a very intentional choice.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a hard one. I usually try to be more informative than not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm trying to actually think of a place where I'd make the background vague on purpose.
I get for an action shot or something where you're like the punch in where you're like, okay, hard focus on the character powering up or hard focus on the character having emotional change.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's like, people moving throughout a scene, conversing, your typical like trolley shot or doing something like you're not having some sort of backgrounds makes the world feel like it non-existent, whereas this kind of characters existing in a void.
Unless you're trying to do like a vibe. I remember I can't remember what it was. There was a comic that I read. We had to read it in high school. Actually, it wasn't like a fun comic, but it was all about like being drunk, and it was like the person waking up and like looking around the room, and you couldn't see the surroundings and all of that. Like,
okay.
Yeah, it was like a vibe.
Yeah.
Like you were trying to read it as like being drunk and experience of being drunk. And I think that was like a strong use of blurring out the backgrounds and not having backgrounds. I mean, it was kind of boring, but like I get the point.
It's artistic choice at that point. Yeah.
Sparingly.
Yeah. Yeah. I got it. Well, maybe this will be a project for Aaron and I work together on, but I have an idea for a drugged out skateboarder murder mystery set in Portland. So
set in Portland.
So we're both familiar, and that would just be you can just do as many vague, wobbly lines as you want to.
Yeah. What did you guys' take on people who don't do a lot of good backgrounds? Who like basically kind of skimp on them? Does that ever bother you? Do you ever feel like you're kind of missing out in the comic when you read a comic and they're kind of like oh, come
I
on,
think it depends on the story, personally.
I can
honestly,
see that.
Because if they establish where it's at to begin with, then you can kind of skimp out on some of the panels. Like I think that's kind of what Royal Airship was talking about, was that you could let the reader's imagination fill in the blanks if you've already established where you're at and what the tone is. You know what I mean?
So I feel like you still need like a strong establishing shot.
For like Blade Runner. Yeah, if you do like Blade Runner, you've established that it's like a gritty, you know what I mean?
I think you need to remember though that readers are people and they're a lot smarter than like some people give them credit for, because like, and again, I'm sorry, this is the only thing coming to mind, but like when the Darth Vader Dark Souls like comic series came out, I was like right in line to get it. I was like, yeah. And like so much of that comic series, especially like the first like 3 issues, is just like fillers. Like it's literally like them expecting you to know because you've seen the movies that, oh, we don't need to put in the backgrounds because you know where he's at. Oh, like you only need to look at this character. Like, and it was, I felt like it was Darth Vader, so like I was happy, but I was conflicted because I was like, okay, they just did this because like it was a moneymaker and you took my money and you really didn't give me a great product.
Yeah.
And it was just like that first whole comic was a lot of like blank red.
Yeah. And I feel like I get like I remember like I was saying where like I get that for they do this a lot in the Shield comics where you'd get establishing shot of like the helicarrier over New York City. And it's like this really strong, like usually like a really strong splash page with those like characters talking and captions over the front of it. That was kind of the thing for a solid year. But and then we get to people talking and the scene is usually them and like you get a little like on-site lighting from like the holograms or whatever, but not much behind them as they're you know like here's the bad guy this month. But
it seems weird that they would. Oh, sorry, I thought you were.
Say, but yeah, so like having, I think if you're going to keep backgrounds vague, you can do that just as long as you have a strong establishing shot. But if you're doing strictly vague, establishing like the Darth Vader comic, or it's like, all right, I'm getting a lot of like cool lightsaber effects, but there's no context for any of this.
That like I don't even know what that was.
Well, and also considering Star Wars is again sci-fi, so background and world heavy that you want to see. I mean, it's like somebody walking through the very minor illustrations of like the Tatooine, like the buildings or something.
Like the middle, like well, not the middle, but like after the. I guess technically it's breaking down episode 4, which I've never really done this way before, but the after the prologue, which is on the Corvette, because I guess it's technically a prologue. But before you get into Act 1 with Luke, like there's a solid like 10 to 15 minutes of establishing Tatooine. Where it's just like, here's droids walking around, here's moisture farms, here's whatever.
Yeah, he did do a really good job of that sort of like establishing that world, and then you see him come up looking at the sunset. Wasn't that the first shot of Luke looking at the sunset?
Yes, on the 2 moons.
Yeah, and so there's but again, Star Wars certain series is so. If I bought a Star Wars comic and they were kind of skimping on the backgrounds, I'm like, isn't that kind of like part of it? Especially, I remember if they, they get it and skip on the details of the spaceships. Now I would give, the artists props that even, now they use 3D models for the ships. But, They still did an amazing job in those old 70s Star Wars comics when they did the ships and stuff. The detail they would do on those is still, I mean, even though the details are kind of changed, they did a good job of kind of keeping them the same that you knew.
Well, like a lot of like the post-Imperial fleet, like we got entire lexicons worth of information from like artists who did this stuff for Dark Horse, like Crimson Empire and Dark Empire. They did a lot of just like planetary like shots or like fleet shots, and like just allowed 3 crafters to go mad creating like their own like names and classes for all the different ships included in that.
Which comic was this?
The 2 series, Crimson Empire and Dark Empire, were like 2 of the big follow-ups.
You know what I noticed Marvel's doing though with like some of the comics, like they're recycling like illustrate if they're the same like comic series. It's like, oh, we'll change the color of this planet and add some lines, and the person won't notice like 3 comics ago we used the same one.
Yeah.
Like,
that's it. I noticed that when I was reading Dr. Afro, which sucks because I like Dr. Afro, but I'm like, I feel like I've seen this location
before. Dr. Afro is awesome.
Yeah.
It's weird. I haven't. Now, I do read mostly independent comics, but I'm trying to think if I've ever seen that in a comic. But it completely makes sense. I mean, digital technology, you can just cut and paste certain things.
Well, I get it I get that for like film or TV, because like reasonable assets are great because you're like, all right, we're in the back half of filming, we're over budget by this much.
Right.
What can we not shoot?
Recycle what we have.
But
for comics, I mean, if you're a fan and you're reading a comic, you're a fan. Like I know people that can tell you, oh, this happened in Spider-Man in this issue number, this page, blah blah blah. I can't do that. I'm a huge comic fan, but I can't do that.
Oh, I can't.
I do remember storylines though. I was like, oh, like blah blah blah. Like this was, this was during like the like this and this particular scene happened with this. Like I can remember storylines, but I can't remember. But people remember details. So like if you go and you recycle, images, for one thing, you know what I mean. And they do a lot of what's it called? I can't remember what it's an actual thing where like you take one picture and use the same picture in the next panel or something like that. And like you tweak one thing. Like I think I did that for one panel. Thomas Hudson did the pencils for the Christmas story for Kalis, and I had to do that. I had to draw ink in one panel and then copy it into the next panel and just move it on. You know what I mean?
Can a background slow down or speed up the story? I think it depends on how well the background is done. Because again, if you get that same issue where the background is clashing with the foreground, then it might just eject you from the story. But if it's done really well, it just kind of flows nice. I'm still trying to remember the name of the guy who did that X-Men series. I'll post it in something later. But I just remember there was was that Deadly Genesis? Who did Deadly Genesis?
Sounds like a job for Google.
I know.
Trevor Harrison. But is that the correct one? It might be the one after that. But anyway, introducing Vulcan and then going to I forgot the name of this. Jose, who are the bird aliens in X-Men? Yes, but going to their homeworld and establishing you got a lot of really strong backgrounds from Deadly Genesis afterwards for their establishing their empire. And but they're all done so well in a way that flowed. Like there was a natural flow to the backgrounds and the panels, and I felt like that helped me read through faster because I'm so engaged in it that whereas if it's something is just a dry background or a dead background, it's going to feel dry and I may not be as interested. I think that interest is definitely going to.
I felt the same way about was it War of the Kings? I thought War of the Kings had some great backgrounds because they were showing the different planets and whatnot for certain things, like the background and everything when they were on the Kree planet was significantly different than the background and everything in the tones for the Shi'ar planet. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And on top of that, like when Ronan and Crystal got married, it was on like an ice planet. Like just in that regard, the backgrounds definitely set the tones for the things that they were doing at that particular time. And I thought it was great because when they showed the Shi'ar planet and whatnot, it was very rocky, it was very rough, and at the time in the story, it was very like things were like tumultuous and like there was a like, not quite a fight, but you definitely got the sense of suspense. You know what I mean, or like an imminent threat. You know, in that background helped to like solidify that. And then when they when you drew the background for like the Kree planet, it was, you know, the part of the story where Ronan was talking to Crystal and they were like more trying to establish like a relationship and whatnot. And so there were a lot of like warmer colors like flowers and leaves and grass and water. Like you could tell like the background was a little more serene. So like it gave you more of like that you know, because any story you're gonna have your action and then you're gonna have like the moment, like the lull, the calm, you know what I mean? It definitely gave that in that particular story. Which is funny because I don't even like Marvel comics.
How do you choose a BG background palette? Well, I think largely comes down to kind of the tone of the story, your own relationship to color theory as a colorist, and and the vibe that's being conveyed. I kind of mentioned this in the series Clear. That's a Comixology original right now, but because it's so Uncanny Valley, that does not use any realistic colors. So background and foreground are all emotive tones as opposed to realistic tones. So the palette on that is you know, bright blues and pinks or yellows and greens depending on the emotions being conveyed in that scene. And I think that's just a really effective way of coloring a page.
You know, it's funny. I almost think the way I've almost seen that kind of overused, and I've seen this is kind of one of my pet peeves of modern comics is these monochromatic backgrounds that go on. But I think if used effectively to tell the story, I think they can be well done. It just seems like I've seen so many comics where like you have the red pages and the blue pages, and that because everything's monochromatic. Like I'm like, you guys need to like calm down. And I don't know. If it's just easy, just calm down. You know, it's like, oh, you know, the world does have color, but sometimes, I'm like, yes, using all different shades of blue, which I don't know if it's harder to do monochromatic. I think it's easier to do monochromatic because you just kind of stick with the various shades of blue.
I think the skill comes down in building the gradient. Like, if you're going to use
for that, you shade the shades. Like say you have like, you know, Aaron's dreaded red comic pages, right?
Yes.
But you wouldn't it wouldn't be like red. I mean, unless it was like what was it? It was a Daredevil red, like black, red, and something another. Where the tone of the whole book is red. The Electra book was like that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And but there's a Daredevil, like a Daredevil storyline that it was all done in like red, blacks, and like shades of red. You know what I mean? So you definitely had the varied.
Was that the one done by Tim Sale?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Tim Sale. I can't remember who he worked with. What was the writer he worked with forever? That anyway, it's escaping me. He did like Hulk, Gray.
I don't know. I don't remember writers' names. Are they important?
I don't. Not really. Yeah. I just remember that Tim Sale. They would do that a lot. I mean, I think even in the Captain America, which was like blue or something, they did that. They would use color.
Yeah.
That's
was it Tim Sale? Like that's like an overlaying theme that they had for like, hey Tim Sale, we want you to work on this book, but we're gonna do it like this.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna basically Xerox that for other particular characters in the Marvel universe.
Right. The IDW adaptation of Metal Gear Solid's 1, 2, and Acid, they got collected into one giant volume. Was also it wasn't monochrome, but it was a white to black gradient going through blue, and all the lines were done. There was no hard lines, and everything was done out of focus. So Yeah, and that was, it was if you want to like translate Kojima to a comic, it felt like it did that well. Where it's they wanted you to feel as if the panel was not really what you were seeing, and so I guess that whole thing where it's a stylistic choice, I feel like it goes really well as opposed to just being like doing something for kicks and giggles.
Yeah.
Right. I want to say, and I think I'm wrong. I might be wrong on the artist, but it was Buscema did stuff. You guys might lose me. Did stuff for Conan, and the background was incorporated into the paneling.
Oh, you talking about Barry Windsor Smith?
Actually, it might be Barry Windsor Smith. I told you I might be wrong.
There was Aaron Lepresti did that. I just got his Wonder Woman Conan comic a while ago, and I remember in that one he would incorporate the background as like swords would become border panels, like borders and stuff. And
yeah. Like you would see, there really wouldn't be a panel border, right?
Yeah.
It would be like the brick of like the leaves in like the marketplace where he's walking around. It was super cool. I actually have
like, Will Eisner, I think, didn't he used to do that a lot? I know he would incorporate a lot of the words into the background. I know Will Eisner was really big on that.
Yeah,
but I think he did backgrounds like that too.
Panel borders.
Yeah, he kind of got rid of panel borders as he went along, didn't he? Much more of a free-flowing page. Yeah.
All right. Well, it is that time where we must sign off again. But we'll be back next Tuesday for another Silverline show on Tuesday.
I thought so. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't been here. Are we just doing hour shows now? I thought we were doing hour and a half shows.
We're doing like hour to 15. It usually ends up running to an hour and a half.
Okay. We're trying to eliminate. I thought it was 9:30.
Yeah, usually we sign off at like an hour and then we continue.
Yeah, I was gonna say Tim like really tried that one time to get us off at like an hour exactly, and everyone just started talking again.
Yeah, but usually start wrapping up around an hour 10, and then see what happens from there.
Okay, this must be something. It was 9:30. Huh. Okay.
But yeah, an hour seems to do better on YouTube afterwards. So, and also it's easier for the it's easier for the podcast editor.
I see.
Yes. But check back in this channel 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow and Sunday for Wednesday Wham and Silver Sunday. Next week we will be talking about. I actually just had these up here and then I close that tab.
Talking about just me in general.
Yes. We'll be talking.
I'm not
coming. We're talking about creating fight scenes for comics, writing, drawing, and how not to bore your audience.
Well, I guess I won't be any help. Because I bore everyone.
Perfect.
I've seen your fight scene.
Yeah, I know. Well, suffices, I guess, it's like a fight scene or something, whatever. So, where Earthship says plug the Wham. Nah.
That's going to be a fun one because I have things to say about fight scenes. I'm just not, we'll talk about it next week.
Perfect. All right.
And then, yeah.
Okay. Well,
you're trying.
I know. Well, I'm. Any closing thoughts on backgrounds before we head out?
Backgrounds can be too busy
backgrounds are important.
Well. Don't get too busy. Don't make them boring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't make them boring. At least, yeah. They can be just as interesting. Don't skimp on them.
Yes. All right. Well, we have been your Silverline show on Tuesday. We will see you next week. And until that time,
make mine Silverline.
Make mine Silverline.
Perfect.
Make mine Silverline.
Like a speed contest.
Hi, my name is Sergio Cariello, and make mine Silverline.